As popular and beloved as the Star Wars movies are, there are several actors who had bad experiences working on them, and that includes some of the biggest names in the series. I thought I'd take a look at the reasons why. Okay, good news, bad news starting out. The good news is that Mark Hamill, the man behind Luke Skywalker himself, was generally happy about the role. Mark became a megastar after the first movie came out and had nothing but amazing things to say about his experience for years.
It's funny, isn't it?
The bad news? That streak ended after filming the 8th movie, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Mark said he didn't dig the direction his character was headed, a path set by director Rian Johnson. He even said that he started thinking of the Skywalker in that particular movie as a totally different one than the guy he played. He said, and I quote, "Maybe he's Jake Skywalker."
Who is this guy?
Which is so weird because that's the name I use for my Starbucks orders. Either way, it was soups awkward. Because if anyone is going to be a fierce defender of all things Star Wars, you figure it'll be Luke, right? Mark eventually came to his senses and posted an apology on Twitter. He even made a point of saying that once he saw the whole movie put together, he realized he was wrong. So it sounds like he had a visit from Obi-Wan to set him straight. And by Obi-Wan, I actually mean several top Disney executives. Same. Speaking of Mr. Kenobi, Sir Alec Guinness was another actor who had issues with the franchise. Now, in fairness, when the first movie was being made, nobody really knew how much of a big deal it would be. So you have this total pro of the acting world, who had won awards and made a ton of bank on stage and on screen, cut to him reading a script with a dude in a black suit and breathing machine chasing after a couple other dudes and a furry creature. Yeah, the whole thing probably seemed a little dubious. In fact, we know he thought that because he wrote some letters to a buddy during production calling the movie, quote, fairy tale rubbish, and the dialogue pretty ropey. Dang, Alec, tell us what you really think. And yet, he trudged on. Why? Well, he had a crush on the head of the wardrobe department. I'm kidding, it was his paycheck. He made $150,000 for the part, way more than everyone else. But more importantly, he got 2% of whatever George Lucas made from the box office moolah. So he ended up pulling in about $100 million, money that still comes to his estate even after his death. And honestly, you'd look like $100 million if you hit that subscribe button. Just saying. Speaking of the costume department, another major star of the Star Wars universe at one point made the statement, "I was glad to see that costume for the last time." That grumpy comment was made by Mr. Grumpy Pants himself, Han Solo. Or actually the guy who played Han, Harrison Ford. Apparently, Harrison has had a love-hate relationship with the franchise for a while now. I mean, it's probably hard to fully hate the thing that turned you into a huge movie star, right? And yet Harrison clearly had his issues with the movies and the scripts. Apparently, he said to writer George Lucas, "You can type this, George, but you sure as hell can't say it," referring to a clunky bit of dialogue. Now, in fairness, it's possible it was all said in jest, and he was just having a little fun with the legendary Star Wars creator. After all, there's definitely evidence of Harrison having fun on set. But what we do know is that at the very least, Harrison got tired of playing Han Solo after a while. He was apparently pretty hesitant to even sign on to the second and third movies, but he eventually did. And in what has to be a first in Hollywood, he actually pitched the idea that Han should get killed in Empire Strikes Back. What? An actor looking for less screen time? Bonkers. And before he did make a comeback in The Force Awakens, Ford said for years he wasn't interested in making a return to the character. This went as far back as an interview in 1983 on The Today Show, where he said that quote about not wanting to ever be in that costume again. I guess ultimately he got his wish when, 8-year-old spoiler alert, Han got killed in The Force Awakens. It's not a spoiler alert to say that John Boyega was one of the breakout stars of the latest series of Star Wars movies. His character Finn was introduced in The Force Awakens and spent the next 3 movies battling the forces of Supreme Leader Snoke, Kylo Ren, and the Emperor. But apparently John felt like he was really battling another evil force, racism. In an interview after Episode 9 came out, The Rise of Skywalker, Boyega put the writers and directors on blast for poor treatment of his character and other characters played by people of color. He noted that it was poor form for Disney to introduce a black character, promising that they're going to be involved in a major way in the plot, and then sort of keep them as a supplemental character. But that's exactly what they did in John's opinion. He talked about how they gave certain characters, aka the white ones, nuance and agency. This meant Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley's characters, among others, but that they sort of pushed Finn's character to the side as the movies went on. It left a super bad taste in John's mouth, and while he has called the experience experience and amazing opportunity, clearly he's glad to be done with it. Now, C-3PO and R2-D2 were definitely supplemental characters and were always meant to be, but that doesn't mean they weren't fan favorites. Sadly, it appears Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker, the actors inside those robot suits, weren't favorites of each other. In fairness, according to Baker, who played R2, it was more that Daniels was kind of a jerk to him and others on set. It was hard enough for them to really communicate with each other inside those giant costumes. I mean, you spend all day in a giant metal suit and see how chipper you are. But regardless, Daniels apparently would address Baker as little man and generally acted like he was better than Baker. Baker also revealed that he eventually found out it wasn't just him. Daniels didn't get along with most of the people on set. In addition to his feuding with Baker and others, Daniels also got pissed when they had him only voice 3PO in later movies, after being inside the suit for the original ones. He even referred to the CGI version of him as terrible. Okay, I'm gonna go try to soothe my inner child that is suddenly super disappointed at the people who made Star Wars. I just hope the actors making Andor and The Mandalorian are happy, because otherwise I'm gonna probably lose it. If you know of anyone else who was unhappy making Star Wars, pop it in the comments section.